First of all, let's get this dull glass off. A couple of clips either end, a clip either end. It's always a good thing when we get these out in one piece. Has a black backing, which is crinkled and doesn't look real good. So we will probably replace that with just a piece of thin black cardboard. Now, dial glass, all looking pretty good except for just there. Okay. We've got a wonky Queensland there as well. The L's dropped down a bit. Never try and straighten these up. I'm just going to clean the front glass, but not do too much with the back, other than certainly no moisture or anything like that on it. Just a nice dry cloth and go over it. Won't be using big cloth. I use my wife's eye makeup pads, which are excellent for lots and lots of this sort of stuff. Okay, that will do me. I've also noticed a couple of other wonky fellas in there. 2PK is a little bit wonky. MG still okay, but yeah, PK. But definitely not touching them. Now, the front, I use a little bit of methylated spirits on a pad and gently wipe him over. Like so. And as you can see, a fair bit of grime coming off. Do not do this on the back of the glass. All the numbers will just float away on you and it'll be an impossible job to resurrect the things. You'll be up for a dial glass or it's useless. A little bit of grime off there, certainly good enough. Now, as I said, the backing, it's faded, it's crinkly. I'd like it nice and black, so we will just cut another piece of cardboard, put him on as for the backing. This is very faded. The other side's not too bad. When you're doing these, put these away somewhere very safe until you need to use them. Right, let's check this transformer to make sure he's okay. Actually, we'll check both while we're doing this, but normally these are fairly reliable. Now, what we're checking here is the output speaker transformer. HT goes into the center tap of the tranny, and one goes to the plate of one 6GW8. The other one goes to the other plate of the 6GW8. So that's the arrangement we've got, a push-pull type arrangement. So we're going to go and measure from that point there to this point here and make sure if we've got both those points, we have continuity. So one comes out here as a blue, which is down here. We're on ohms, and this one is brown. And we're okay. We're measuring 600 ohms, which is around about right. It's, well, say 680. That's about 340 on each side of the center tap, which is normal. Okay, that transformer is okay, thank God. The rats didn't get to the winding. Now, let's move this up. And we'll test the second one. Okay, so we've got down here is the blue up to the brown, and there we are, 725 ohms. So we know this transformer is also okay. Well, that's a good thing. We don't have to worry too much about the speaker transformers. Now, we'll check the electrodes. I'm just going to lift them and check them. I'm sure they're okay, but then we better start replacing a couple of electrodes along the back there because they're starting to pop out the ends, and that's probably not a real good sign. We will also go along, I won't record all this, but I'll check all the resistor values. There's a little electrode cap in here. Okay, so let's lift these capacitors, the handful of electrodes. These ones we replace, these ones we check. Now this one is a 16 mic at 500 volts. Right, this little meter is the only one I've got at the moment that gives me ESR. Normally it's pretty accurate, and it's fairly accurate with capacitance readings. Okay, here we go. And 20.66 ESR 2 ohms. Yeah, not too bad, but a little bit leaky. I would like that down a little bit further than that. Okay, now this fella is an 8 microfarad at 500 volt. And we've got 10 mic ESR 1.5 ohms. So yeah, a little bit lower, but I certainly would replace him with a 10 mic. So yeah, all three electrodes will be replaced. So we'll do the main ones now and then come back and do the smaller ones. There's a couple up the top here, and yeah, we'll go from there. Okay, so a closer inspection of the big caps with a little bit better meter that I had here, and they're not too bad. They're very close to spec, actually. This one's reading 20 mic, so there may be a little bit of leakage, but ESR is only about 2 ohms, so that's fine, and 1.5 ohms on the other one. So going to leave the big fellas in. I've replaced this little 8 mic here with a 10 mic, and now we're doing the cathode. Are they the cathode caps? We're now doing the cathode cap. That fella there, and this fella up here. So that's the two we're replacing at the moment. And boy, they don't look real crash hot at all. Be very interesting to measure these. Add some solder to remove some solder. He is wrapped around as well, nice and tight. Okay, we'll eliminate that problem. And this fella is a 25 mic, 25 volt. And by the look of him, certainly time to change him. Let's check him on the meter and see what he reads. 41 microfarad. I would say that is very, very leaky for a 22. I'll go to my stock and get a couple of 22s, and we'll change this fella. And this fellow over here. Okay. 22s at 25 volts or thereabouts. A little bit of difference these days, isn't there? That one's at 25 volt, this one's 63 volts. Certainly difference. And I'm sure 22 will work fine in the place of a 25. Okay, looking through some old stock here of mine just before I put these 22s in, and look what I found. Some 22 63 volts axial. So yeah, new old stock. I will certainly test each one before he goes in, but yeah, I'd rather replace them with axials if I can. Even the leads were long enough to give him a wire wrap on the pin. There we go. Okay, the next two caps we're going to replace, little electros, one there and one down in there, little blue fella, is the cathodes on the cathode caps on the 12AX7. So, which is your little preamp, and it's, where are we? I can't see on the map. Okay, that fella there, I think that's him, yep. And sorry about the map, and this fella up here. So it's on each channel on the cathode of your preamp tube, the 12AX7. There's a volume control, so forth, goes in there. Now we'll also be checking these mustard caps around here, especially that fella there, going to the grid of the 6GW8, so that one and also the one down here. So very important we check those to make sure we've got no voltage or very little voltage, hopefully a negative, going to the grid of the 6GW8s. Okay, let's replace these fellas. These little fellas go across the 2.2K cathode resistor. 6.4 mic, 25 volts. Okay, so we'll probably go a 6.8 on those. I don't have any axial these, only the little radial fellas. 6.8, 63 volt, smallest I got. That should do the job nicely. I won't record this. It's you'll hear me swearing. This is a bit tricky to get to. Right, got him in. Got both of them in. That one was a little bit tricky. This one fairly easy, but yeah, I would have liked axials in there, but anyway, that's just what we had. So next thing, I guess, is checking the coupling capacitors to the grids of the 6GW8s. So let's do that. Well, we've zipped along and changed a few resistors, actually. Some 1 watters, mostly B plus feed resistors, and a couple of screen resistors. So place one down in there at 220K. There's another one up here, which is also a 120K. There's a 120K here that we've changed. 470 ohm over this side over here. So that's those three. Now, if we take a look at the circuit, it's in the amp stage. So 470, that one there was actually almost 600 ohms coming from the HT to to your screen grid. So HT3, that one is. So yeah, we replaced him, and what 470, one of those, and what was the other one? 120k. So the 120k, there's one there, and on the other channel was the same thing, one there, 120k. They both read over 200k. So once again from the HT down here, as far as it's on the cathode circuit there. So yeah, both those are replaced. So that's it for the caps and resistors. I think the next thing now is our tuning is very, very stiff. So it's a little bit of a mechanical thing. I've checked all the other resistors. Everything seems okay. We have to do something with these pilot lights to get them mounted somehow here. I don't quite know how we're going to do that yet. So we'll start by having a look at the tuning, and here I can see some very, very sticky grease in along where the actual tuning dial slides. This fella here appears to be seized up. Little pulley there, he doesn't seem to be working. So we'll free him up and see if we can get this working a little bit better. We've got the tuning working quite nicely. It goes from one end, you can't see there, one end to the other, quite free. That little pulley there was seized up and slightly bent off centre, so he's working well now. This one was tight. We freed him up. The spring was actually jammed closed, and it looked like just being in one position for a long while. The spring had almost melted into the plastic, which was causing the dial cord to be very, very tight. So fixed him up. I have cleaned the tuning capacitor, cleaned the plates, so all is good there. And now I'm going to remove our magic eye, if you can see him in there, and clean him up as well while we're in this vicinity. Now, it's a matter of getting it hold of him and getting him out of there. I will also spray the socket. It's an EM84, and there he is. A little bit dirty. Hasn't had a lot of use, I don't think, by the look of that. So let's see what we can do with him, and then spray the socket in there. Righto, next job. Spray the pots, switches. Some of these are quite tight. Probably put a bit of lube around the front of them actually. He's coming loose, but there we go. Now the switches. Just go in there on the bank of switches with 226. There's some little bit of dry grease in there. That's a fair bit better. And the end one is our on-off switch as well. Now I can't really get too much in there. There's a little area at the back there we can get in. But they're all working quite nicely now. So that's radio, I think, and that's gram. And you've got hi-fi speakers, which is the electrostatic speakers, in and out of circuit. Right, okay, that feels pretty good. These fellas are nice and loose now. Certainly a lot better than what they were. What's next? Right, the next job on the list, these lamps. So what I'm thinking, they've the little rubber protrusion there that slides into here, they mount underneath here, and the light is reflected up and back down over the front. I'm thinking just a cable tie around this fella and holding him on. Let's see if this is going to work. He actually wants to move back a bit, and I want him towards the front. Okay, well, we've got the lamps mounted in. Now, what I did was I put some heat shrink over the rubber because the ground wire on the back of it was a little exposed. The ground on this 6.3 volt winding for the filaments and the dial lamps is not grounded anywhere. So I didn't want it to touch anything on these, so I put some heat shrink over them, drilled a small hole in there, and just put a cable tie around on the heat shrink, and they're quite firm, they won't move. So yeah, that got around our little problem of these coming loose, falling down, shorting, everything. There's it's a wonder there wasn't some damage done beforehand with these. The rubber had disappeared and it had just fallen to pieces, and the lamps were just floating around inside here quite easily to touch one of the terminals on the chassis. But thank God it didn't. So anyway, that's the modification to hold the lamps in. We're getting very close to setting this up and putting her on the speakers and seeing if we got any sound out of it. Geez, I hope so. Right, well, the next job in this restore was the dial glass backing. The old one, wrinkly, faded. So what I've done is cut a piece of black cardboard, size of the dial, and just put it behind. It's looking quite nice actually, other than the reflection on the camera. Rubber ends that go on each side. I'll have to trim it back slightly because when the rubbers both go on, it wants to buckle this a little bit. But anyway, that's the next piece in the puzzle, and then on with the chassis. Let's let's put some clips on and hold this fella in place. Now, as you can see, on there, the dial pointers have to go further this way, so she's not quite going to the end. And when we wind him back, he's got to come back to the PS mark, both there and there. And when we take him back to the low end of the dial, as you can see, goes a bit past it. So that's got to be brought along to there. Just straighten that fella up. And now that's it. PS, and that is fully closed on the gang, low end of the dial. And now we go up to top end of the dial, which is around about in the right position there. There's no markings on this end of the dial. It's as long as it goes to one end. I'll just try that again. To PS. And yeah, that's pretty close. Both pointers. Right. The dial is on. It's ready to put this chassis somewhere on top of the stereo and connect it up so that we can run it, align it, and get this thing together. This is where we're up to. Getting the 11-102 ready for a test. She's a bit of a makeshift job there to test this thing. We've got to go for the these fellas here, which are the speaker cables, and these fellas, which go down to the power supply. And if I put the unit in the front there where it's supposed to be, you can't get at any of this. So yeah, it's I'll just get around the other side. I'll spin him around for you and give him a bit of a look. So that's what she looks like. If I can get far enough back with the camera. Bit of wacky camera work here. But anyway, she's all plugged in. Variac, dim bulb, and let's hit the dim bulb. We're on dim. Let's hit her and see what happens. Okay, that looks fairly normal. Now we'll keep an eye on our HT. Looking quite good. I've just got it on one of the filter caps in there, that fella. And oh, we have sound. Make sure that arm doesn't get tired in the second half and pick it up our way. We have sound. Okay. 180. A little bit low, but got both my lamps going on the dim bulb. Let's go bypass. And we'll just turn Mr. Laws back down a little bit. That's looking better. We're looking at 260 for that's HT2 that we're on there, not HT1. But at 260 for HT2 is correct. And I think it is. Let's have a look here. HT2, 250, 255, and HT1 of 300 volts. 255, 260, that's pretty damn good. Okay, she's all working. She's away. Let's see what. We won't pick up very much in here, as you know. We'll go up to the end here, see if we've got the ABC at 2CR. And we sure have. And sounds good. And we better back that off a bit. And we've got bass working fine, and treble is working fine. Balance left is working. Balance right is working. So we better get that off before I get a YouTube strike. HT still on 259, 258. Yeah, that's pretty good. We've got 240 going in from the Variac, so everything is very normal. Let's set up a little bit of alignment gear and have a bit of a read on the alignment procedure. I think I've got it. I'm not really sure whether I've got all the alignment procedure. Probably not. But anyway, we can do our 455 and then align the dial. I'm sure that it'll be pretty straightforward. Standard sort of tuner, 6AN7, 6N8, and a 12AX7 as the preamp, and two 6GW8s on each channel for the outputs. 260 and holding. That's good. Let's set her up for an alignment. We've got a few things set up here. Now over here, got the SIG-Gen, and she's set up on 455, and we're pushing out about 6 millivolts at the moment on 455 kilohertz, which is the IF frequency of this unit. Now, over here, we've gone into the aerial connection on our tuning capacitor. So we've just gone straight in there, as you can see it. And now there's a little bit of difficulty doing these. There's an IF can, there's another IF can, and first of all we'll do the tops. Now over here I have my meter set up. We'll just come around here. Bear with me with this camera this morning. It's a bit ordinary, but yeah, it does the job. So that's our meter set up. I'll increase the volume level a little bit in a moment, because at the moment it's driving me crazy. Our little green EM84 in there looks very nice. So there's our IF cans. That's where we're going into, and we will do the IF first. Righto. I hope this noise doesn't drive you crazy as much as it is me. I'm starting on the first IF, and we'll see, can we... Yes, bring him up. Oh, it's looking good. And there's the peak. My word, we brought him up a long way. Okay, let's try for the second IF. go. We'll go back to the first IF. Lovely. Okay, we'll go around the other side and see can we get into the bottom slugs of those. Okay, we're really struggling to get into this side of him, but I think I've got into the bottom slug there, and I can tweak him up a little bit there, and that's him. Okay, let's try the second one. They're very difficult to get to. Have a look here. Can we? I'll give him a little bit more volume. There's our peak, I think. Right there. The only alignment tool I have is this thing. We had to bend it severely to get into this space and this space. Not ideal at all. Don't know how this would have been done originally, but anyway. Now we're going to do the RF. Now I don't have any service information on this, so we're just going to go via the dial. We'll start at 1500. Where's 1500 on my dial? 2AY in Albury, which is on the dial just behind that pointer, which is right there, is 1497, I think. Yeah, 1497 or 1493, something like that. We're going to call it 1500 and just go just a whisker past that 2AY. So about there, which is just a little bit past. We're calling this 1500. We'll adjust, and what we've got to adjust here is an aerial trimmer, which is this little fella here. Now we may have to add or subtract a little piece of wire on this fella, seeing he's one of those fancy wire wound fellows. I'm sorry about the lighting here, it's not real crash hot, but there you go. And you can actually see the wire right down where we are. You can see that piece of wire there. Okay, so we've got to adjust him. We'll just go out a little bit there. We've got to adjust that little fella there to give us exactly 1500 on the dial. So let's do that. So on our test set, we now have 1500 or 1.5 meg, and at the moment we're feeding in 100 microvolts. We'll have a look and see how far out we are at the top end. We're pretty well spot on our 2AY. We'll move him this way. There he is. So as you can see, he's got to come up a little bit, up to here. Now, we don't know whether we've got to add some wire or subtract some wire here at the moment. Yeah, we're getting a little bit closer, but not quite close enough. We might have to just put solder a little piece of wire on this fellow. Bear with me with this. We'll solder a piece of wire on this fellow and do some more winding there. Okay, well, that's just about impossible to do that with one hand while I was recording, so you missed the excitement. But anyway, we've got him pretty well spot on, as close as we're going to get. He's there, and there's the little capacitor. I'm sorry about this footage isn't real crash hot, but there's our cap. He's got a few more turns on him. Sorry about the quality, this isn't my regular camera. But anyway, that's working, we're on frequency, so we're going to leave him as is. The next thing is we will go down to another station, which is down the bottom end here, and it is 2CR. Now, we're on this dial here. Come on, Baz, get this together. Okay, we're on this dial here. 2CR is 549, so we can call that 550. So now I'll put the SIGGEN on 550, and we'll adjust the trimmer cap on the tuning gang. We'll bring him down to 2CR, 549, call it 550. And now what we've got to adjust is the oscillator coil, which is that one there. And it's the same setup as those stupid IFs. Okay, have a look around the back. Right, that's what we've got to adjust in there. Nice one, Kriesler. But anyway, it's a little bit easier to get to than the others, so we'll get a tool that will go into this side of him, right here, and we'll go from there. Righto, generator set on 550. Turn him up to 550, which is around about 2CR. Give him a little bit of volume, and
it had to be rehearsed when Michael came in.
We're up the end there, but we've got to bring him along.
So we
to about there. Right, well, I didn't record that one because it was just a headache to adjust, but we have got it. It's also mixing with our local radio station, 2CR, but it is spot on. Okay, so let's go back up to 1500 and we'll adjust the antenna trimmer right on 1500. Now at the moment, generator 1500 kilohertz. Let's adjust this fella down in here, which I sort of can't see at the moment, for maximum signal. And getting there, if I can keep the tool on the trimmer, there's the peak right there. Done. Antenna trimmer's done. Now while we had the signal generator inducing a signal there, all I did was set our probe near the loop stick antenna, okay, while we were adjusting over here on the antenna trimmer. Now the lower end of the dial can be adjusted by moving our coil on the loop stick. I'm not going to do that. It's pretty well set there. I don't want to upset things here. The radio seems to be performing extremely well. It's picking up the ABC radio here in the workshop no problems at all. So going to leave well enough alone for the lower end of the dial. So that's good enough for me for the alignment. It's, yeah, a little bit ratty for me, this one, but we've got it going fairly nicely. Okay, so how is our magic eye working? If we go back up here, can we find a station? And we'll go to that strong ABC station. And there he is. And he's working.
Listen up.
There we go, the ABC. Now we go up the dial up here.
Jason Foster. Australia's GDP for the month increased by 0.3%, but the economy only grew by 0.3% over the first 3 months of the year.
We have actually the old 2GZ, which was 990 once, but now it's 1089, so we've moved up a little bit, and
South Wales and Northern Rivers.
It all seems to be working very nicely. Not that you're going to get anything in here in the workshop. So guys, I'm really sorry about this ratty alignment of this thing. I'm not happy with the way it was done. It's just that our main camera cable wouldn't reach to where I am. But anyway, that's it. Let's get on with putting this thing back together. Okay, let's grab a chassis and get it in this piece of gear. Here we go. All sits down in here like so. And got to watch the fingers that goes in. That looks to I think that's it. Is that the way it sits? I think so. And this is the bit that holds it all together. Slips in. Now I remember what's going on here. It's that long ago since I pulled this thing apart. Okay, so we have a screw at the back. 1, 2, and 3. 3 screws in the back of the case that goes into the chassis and holds it in position. Now I can see what's going on. There he is. Right, screw him up. And he's holding it in position. This is good. Which holds this end. Which sort of sits into the front first and comes down and sits like so. Well, g'day guys. Well, here she is. We've getting them together, polished up all the knobs. These fellas, I'll give you a close-up of them. Aluminium paint over the top of those. We've fixed up the one with the hole in the top. Lights are working nicely on the dial. We'll give you an overhead view of this. The magic eye is working lovely, and yeah, this is one nice piece of gear. Around the back, if we can get him out, I do have him running at the moment. As you can see, dim bulbs here. Don't need it on dim bulb. I'm got it there for visual effects for you fellas. 52 watts she's drawing there. And if we go to bypass, we're on bypass. And
a roast, I'll do a roast on the top of the stove rather than turn
and we've just got a talkback show happening there at the moment. So turn him off. I also have put a new power cord on this fella. My customer should be fairly happy with this one. Let's see if we can turn him around, give us a look in the back. There we go. You probably can't see much. There's not much on the lighting side. There we go. It is in the back. There she is, tidied up all the speaker lines. But this bit here, the turntable, that's the next thing we've got to do. So all this working lovely, working nicely. Let's have a look in the top and get onto the turntable. The next bit, and hopefully it's straightforward. I will also show you the screws, everything. I've had a question on the screws. Can't remember his name. One of my subscribers is doing a 103, and I have actually got 4 103s in here, so we'll look into them down the track. But basically 102, 103, the same unit, different arrangement, no magic eye. The 103's got the meter. In the inside is brushed aluminium, both gold and silver, on the 103s, whereas this fella you'll see in a moment, which is just the standard timber. Okie doke, so we'll do a bit of a walk around. There you go. That's in the top. As I said, just standard woodwork in the top. And well, you saw in amongst here, power supply, and if we look right up in there, you can actually see the chassis mounted up in there. The chassis, one screw there, one screw there, and one screw in there. And of course the little fellas to hold the top in, just those fellas. So this just take the knobs off, lifts up and backwards as you're lifting it up, and yeah, the escutcheon comes off quite easily. Okay, there you go. This is where we're up to so far. Turntable next. Let's get on with doing the next part with this beautiful old piece of gear. And if you like following me, what I do, please remember, thumbs up, give us a like, and please subscribe and click the bell so you'll be notified when the next part comes up, the next video. Oh, and by the way, this is what we've got to look forward to. Rebuilding this fella. Well, not rebuilding, re-greasing and getting going. There's a fair bit of grease in here that's gone really, really hard. So that's in the next video, up shortly. Until then, it's bye for now.